Hey guys, this is Edward here, bringing you today another video about a video game that I love, a franchise that I love, Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain. And today, instead of me being in front of the camera, I'm going to be talking through my gameplay. So just to let you know, this is one of the beginning missions, and I'm playing on my PC, and I use a controller, so that's why you don't see mouse controls or keyboard controls and whatnot. And yeah, this is very early in the game. I already beat it on PS4, but I figured, I bought it for PC as well with the best graphics. Might as well just play it on here. And now that I know how the game goes, I can probably do better. Anyway, so um, let's talk about the game. Yeah, let's talk about this game, and I'm gonna go through this. There's a lot to talk about, and instead of just kind of rambling through my thoughts, I'm gonna give you top five things I liked, and then top five things I disliked. And first, we're going to start with the top five things I liked in no particular order. Number one, gameplay. So for this game, love the gameplay. Love the mechanics of the game. The best thing, some of the best things that they have in the previous games they threw into this game, and they added some new features. Like for example, the prosthetic arm. That's a lot of fun. You can use it to stun people. If you upgrade enough to have like a rocket arm, you can shoot it and then knock out people. You can even get like a rope thing on it where you like do a little scorpion action there, and it's a lot of fun. They throw in a lot of stuff that they didn't have in previous games. So I always appreciate new stuff, and then also at the same time, they kept the old stuff like stealth, like hiding. Being able to lure guards near you so that you can take them out and whatnot. Those are always, some of the best parts of the game, right? Other things is like the ability to call in more supplies or like backup, get air support or like a bombardment. Those I feel like those things are great because now that you're, in the game that you're handling your own private military corporation, you should be able to call in for backup, right? I mean, I know Steak is a badass, but he can only do so much by himself. So yeah, like he should be able to have like a little more features and whatnot, and call in like some strikes, and so those are always fun. And then, like I said before, like having the ability to run your own private military corporation, your own PMC, very cool. Like I having to, instead of just knocking out player or not players, but like NPCs and then hiding the bodies. Now you can Fulton them. I didn't realize that. I never played Peace Walker, so I didn't know the Fulton thing was already there. But yeah, so for me it was like the first time, and I thought it was really cool. I didn't have to hide bodies or throw them in like some kind of closet or locker anymore, right? I mean, you can still do that. There's still like stuff that you can throw them in, but most of the time you're just gonna Fulton the sucker out so that these guys don't wake up or something, right? Unless you kill them, then they won't wake up. Uh, but yeah, the gameplay is great. So number two, open world. Yay to no more linear maps. I think that's the one thing that Metal Gear, all the other Metal Gears, you kind of always had this effect where you go from one part of the map to another part, and you always have like a kind of a cut scene, or not a cut scene, but like a little slice through. I don't know how to call it. I don't know what the hell it's called. But anyways, like you always go from like area to area to area, and you just really go one way. Like you can't really explore. I mean, I guess you could in a way because like the area itself is pretty big, but there's not a lot to do, right? Like you don't have an open map like you do now. And I like the fact that you have an option to just roam around and not give a crap about what you're doing, and then you can just take out guards and Fulton people, and then take out animals or whatever. You can do whatever you want. So that's another great. Number three, the buddy system. One of the best features I think having on here. Like I said earlier, like Snake can't do it all by himself. He has to have some people with you. So you have to get the dog, the walker, or Quiet. And all three of them are great. I personally prefer Quiet because, if she can take out whole bases by herself, essentially. You throw on a trank sniper rifle with a silencer, and she just starts, like, ripping people. I mean, not up. But she just takes out everyone. Like, people you didn't even know are there. And her ability to mark people is not that great, but either way, like she's a great asset. I think the Walker can do something similar, but the only thing about the Walker is that you have to spend a lot of money to upgrade him or it, and then it takes forever. And Quiet can do it all in a second. And even if you find yourself in like a pinch, she'll take out people for you. So even better. Number four, weather and the world mechanics. I love that there's like sandstorms, there's rainstorms, there's things that in nature that actually affect your gameplay. While there's not like a whole ton of lot, there's like obviously the storms and also day versus night. It affects how well like the enemy can see you and whatnot. So I really love that part of it about it, that you can really adapt to your gameplay. You can arguably like go at night where there's less people, but then it's harder for you to see. But then during the day it's easier to see, but there's more people around and whatnot, so it's easier to see you. There's always stuff like that. But yeah, I think that's very fun. Makes the gameplay a lot more dynamic. Lastly, the fifth thing I like is weapons development and the customization. So one thing for sure first is like in order to customize weapons, you have to get the gunsmith. And there's three parts to that, so look up other YouTube videos on how to get the gunsmith, and there's actually 3 missions you have to do in order to get him. But once you do, you get to customize almost every weapon you have, depending on what level the gun is at. So essentially, you can add camo, you can add different sights, different shoulder butts, and then also like different grips and whatnot. And you can really customize things the way you kind of, most of it's aesthetic. Some of it is, depending on like barrel rate, like length and stuff does affect performance. But for the most part, a lot of it, you can put silencers on things that you normally wouldn't or like just can't yet because it's not there. And I think customization is great because it really allows you to play however you want. Like I'm at the point on my PS4 account where I have like the best, like a crazy sniper scope on all of my guns because why not? It's just cool. But yeah, like that's a great thing. So now on to the 5 things I dislike, which arguably could be very long. This part might take a lot more because there were a lot of things that I wasn't too much of a fan of. But let's just go straight into it. First off, the story. The story, for Metal Gear Solid 5 is supposed to kind of bridge the gap between Metal Gear Solid 3 and the first Metal Gear game. And, most of it before was just kind of not mentioned or like, kind of hypothesized. So there was no real games to really bridge the gap. I mean, there's also Portable Ops and Peace Walker, but they only tell like a part of a story, and now Metal Gear Solid 5 is supposed to be, Kojima said that it's going to be the answer to all your questions and blah, blah, blah. And honestly, I don't know if it really did that. Like, I mean, there is a lot of story in the game. However, I would say at least 40% of it is hidden in a way in a cassette tape, which is lame because arguably I did not buy a game so that I could listen to an audiobook. Like, I know a lot of people complain that there's not enough story, but if you listen to the cassettes, that the story is there. However, at the same time, it's like, why am I listening to cassette tapes? People complain in Metal Gear Solid 4 that there's way too many cutscenes, and I kind of agree. Like every other 10 minutes was a cutscene, and the cutscene was over like 15 minutes, and there's so much of it. But now they kind of went almost too far with 0 cutscenes, and now, oh yeah, for all this story, just listen to all these goddamn tapes. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm just like sitting there half the time, or you're running around just listening to tapes, and I feel like that's kind of ridiculous. Like, why am I forced to listen to all these tapes? That doesn't make any sense. But anyways, like aside from all that, like the main story in itself, like where you fight Cypher, and I feel like we've been kind of let down because the whole point of this Metal Gear Solid 5, when they first set this up in Ground Zeroes, was like, you find this, rogue group called Cypher, and, this guy is Skullface. He kind of he's like dressed like a cowboy, almost like Ocelot, right? And you think, like, you're going to fight this crazy, different battle or like this new type of like enemy, and at the end of the day, honestly, you don't really get a whole lot of out of it because yeah, it's like Cipher, it's this organization that wants to, I guess, ruin or rule the world, I don't know, in some shape or form. And honestly, like you don't really get a whole lot of it. You don't get a lot of character development. You don't really get to know Skullface except through the cassette tapes, right? And like the whole force that he brings with him is not that intimidating. I mean, the Skull unit is cool, but you know, you don't really get to fight them like the way you get to fight other bosses before. And I'll go more into that in a little bit. But yeah, like I feel like the story was just in terms of like the gameplay and the story, like the combined, it ended rather abruptly. Only 30 some odd missions, 31 I believe, and once it ends, I'm just like, that's it. Like it's arguably it's kind of like you're getting like in it with the girl and you're kissing and everything is about to lead up to like the best part, if you know what I mean. And then all of a sudden she's like, oh, wait, I gotta go home, bye. And then, bam, all you're left with is like porn. And you're just like, well, this sucks. Like, then basically that's how I feel. Like, the whole story was just like, building up, like, to like, oh, okay, they have this crazy virus that targets languages and all this other crap. And out of nowhere, like, they just end it. And, oh, yeah, you beat the Metal Gear, the Shahalanthropus, or whatever the hell it's called, and you're just kind of left with nothing. And there's more story afterwards. Like, there's still more campaign, like, I mean, episodes or missions to do, but honestly, like, most of the story you're not playing, you're listening to it. And I would rather just watch it through cutscenes than to listen to it on a cassette tape. But that's just me. Number two, the next thing I didn't like was mother-based management. So for this, like, while I like the idea of like running my own PMC, it was so tedious. Mother base, like it was one. First of all, like if you're gonna force me to go back to mother base every now and then, at least let me go back and let me do stuff on my own base. I felt like I was like a stranger at my own base. Like half the doors I couldn't even allow to go in. Like half of them had the red bar. Was like, man, you can't go in through here, and there's only like 2 or 3 doors that you can go through. And I'm like, this is my own freaking base. Like, why can't I go through like half of these places? I mean, I understand that like you can't go through every door, otherwise they have to start like they have to make more of a map or whatever. But if you're gonna force me to go back there, at least allow me to explore it instead of just like on the outside, right? And also, the other reasons for exploring it or going back is like you raise morale, but if I have to go back to raise morale, do I really have to go past every single freaking like guy that I Fulton to raise their damn morale so that they can like salute me for no reason? Like, and then also like if you stand in front of them, they'll just keep saluting you for like forever. Which like I feel like that's so tedious. Like I am not gonna run around like my entire base just to keep morale up. That's crazy to me. And why aren't there more things to do than the little training exercises of hitting targets? Why don't they put in features where it's like, oh, I could do like a practice mission. I can get like a 5-on-5, like a mock, like MGO, Metal Gear Online like match going on, right? Why don't I do a little paintballing with like my guys or something? Do something where it's like a little more interesting, right? Like go to, I think they should open up parts where it's like you get to go see where Ocelot's like hanging out. You get to go see where Miller is. You get to all these other characters. Like the only other people like you can really visit is like Emmerich and Paz, and you can't really talk to them though because for some reason they don't allow you to talk to people. Like why isn't that? Like why can't I? Like if you're gonna make me go back, at least let me talk to my own guys. Like just be like, hey, like what are you up to? Like whatever. Like it's just even if it's like planned dialogue, like if it is like in Final Fantasy where you just walk up and talk to anybody, like why isn't that there? So I feel like Mother Base and all that traveling is just not. It's crazy and like also just Mother Base. The design of Mother Base is like it's just what the heck? Like who thought this was a good idea? Like why is it in this kind of like a web shape, like kind of like Ninja Star shape going on? I mean, I think they kind of explain it in the game where it's like, okay, before Mother Base, and we had to spread it out because it's more strategic because the old mother base was too close together. So therefore, um, we gotta make it wider. Like we gotta spread everything out so that not everything can get taken down and all in one like spell swoop. And I'm like, okay, fine, whatever. But if you compare like old mother base to new mother base, new mother base is arguably like the most inefficient base like ever made on planet. Like for one, first of all, like everything is spread out. Like it takes for like okay, so I didn't even know how to do this until like towards like the end of the game. But you can ship yourself in a box on these like shipping platforms so that you can get from one platform to the next very quickly. I didn't know that. So the only other ways is that you run, you take a car or like the Jeep or whatever, or you use a helicopter. And all three of those things are ridiculously long. Like especially the car thing. It's like they since everything is connected through like the base, like the central base, you always have to make this giant V thing going on, right? You can only go from the middle out, and you can't go from like platform to platform from the outside. Like, why don't they connect the outside, like in a ring of, little whatever roads or bridges, so that anyone that needs to travel from one end to another or like to another platform, they don't have to like go on this ridiculous route. I mean, isn't that like a waste of resources? If this is real life, like arguably like the amount of time and energy that they spend like traveling is just so inefficient. And then you would think, okay, and then of course there's like the helicopter, which you would think would just be another easy way to get from platform to platform, but no, it's not, because when they pick you up and you want to go to another platform, they don't just make a beeline from like say R&D to development. They have to, for some reason, go follow along the bridge and then go to this other route and then go like up and over the other bridges, and like once they get near the platform, they don't just land. They have to like circle around the fucking building like a few times, and you're just like, what the crap? Like, I'm sorry if I swear. I mean, I usually don't swear, but I just felt like this whole thing was just so like ridiculous. Like, why am I giving? Like, I can kind of see from the developer's perspective. It's like, oh, I want to give you this spectacle of like the traveling when you're in the helo, and like how great the graphics are. And as a player, I'm like, I don't care. Just get me from platform A to platform B as quickly as possible. There is like no reason why I should take this ridiculously long route. And the more platforms you have, the more the helo circles around them too. So I thought that was just like super inefficient, and it's just ridiculous. Like I feel like the mother base management, like yeah, like it's the thorn on probably most player sides, and it's not. And it should have been something that I felt like it was incomplete. There should have been more done to it. Anyways, number 3. Another thing I didn't like was the boss fights, or lack thereof in general. Because I felt like I didn't know when I was actually getting a boss fight, honestly. Like, I looked it up on several times on YouTube for Metal Gear Solid 5, like, boss fights. And I would say not everyone else knows like which one is a boss exactly either. I feel like in the old ones, you always knew who the bosses were, right? Like you kind of always knew exactly what team and what type of people that you would have to go and kill. Like in Metal Gear Solid 1 was Foxhound, right? The new age Foxhound that you had to kill, Liquid and his team. So you knew like you can count out like exactly who was gonna be there. And Metal Gear Solid 2 was the Dead Cell. Like it was the president and Vamp and that fat man or whatever. And I forget what the last girl's name is, but like yeah, you have all those people that you knew you're supposed to fight, right? And then that was like the bosses, And Metal Gear Solid 3 was the Cobra unit. Metal Gear Solid 4 was the B&B Corps. You knew exactly who you're gonna fight, right? Like, and you just don't get that in Metal Gear Solid 5. Like, I mean, you get introduced to the Skull unit, which are cool, but they're like these zombie weird things that I'm not even sure like that they're alive or dead half the time. And yeah, they're like the weirdest thing, and they don't really go into too much detail about like why they're like that. At least I've yet to listen to a cassette tape where it reveals all of that. So I don't know. Like I feel like the boss fights are just lame in this one, and one of them is even like super ridiculously easy. Like one of the main villains that they introduced was the Man on Fire, right? That's being controlled by this kid Psycho Mantis. Kid, if you didn't know that, well, you should have known that. But sorry if I reveal that to you and you're like, what? But anyways, so the Man on Fire, when you fight him, he's supposed to be like this incarnation of Volgan or whatever, and he's allergic to or like he's susceptible to water. Okay, that makes sense. So when you fight him in that weird area in the House of the Devil, like you have a very quick way, which is essentially to explode some kind of water near him so that he falls out, and then you call in the chopper and then you run away. That's the quickest way. And then the other way would just be to run around like crazy until it rains, because you're in Africa. So once it rains, he just goes away, and then you call in chopper and you just leave. That's not a boss fight. Like you don't defeat, and at the end of the day, you don't even defeat him in at all. Like you don't actually get to fight him and like beat him, because at one point or another, he just kind of defeats himself because he gets thrown under, like literally thrown under a wheel and gets crushed. Like makes no sense. Like I was just like, why is this like crazy like Johnny Storm type figure like in front of me and he looks crazy, like I can't wait to fight him, and then you don't really get to. So that was also pretty lame. Next, see what's next. Also, okay, number 4, not real Snake. Okay, if you haven't, like, I know there's been a lot of spoilers, but this is part of the biggest one, and that's basically that you're not actually Snake. So, you're not Big Boss. And that's ridiculous. Like this whole time that you are actually like a doppelganger, like the body double for Big Boss. Because if you played Metal Gear One, you don't kill Big like in the game. You're revealed that like Big Boss is like the man behind like the whole thing the whole time, and then you kill him, but you actually don't kill him. You kill a body double, and basically you're that body double. You're the person that outer heaven is gonna be. And that's kind of weird, honestly. So you get to be that guy instead. You're not Big Boss. So everything that leads up to it, and I feel like kind of cheated because it almost feels like in Metal Gear Solid 2 when you're playing as Snake at first and you get to do the tanker scene, and then when you go to the big shell, you reveals that you're Raiden. It almost feels that betrayed, like to me, where the character change on you is just so ridiculous. And honestly, like yeah, that's kind of how I feel because when you're not playing Big Boss or you're not playing Snake, like why else am I playing this game? Because like the only half the reason I'm playing this game is so I can play them. Like I want to be Big Boss, not some fool. And yeah, like I feel like I didn't. I mean, I poured in over 100 hours on this thing, and I feel like that was all for nothing because I'm the decoy, not really Big Boss. So I don't know why they decided to go that way. I and like when the more you listen to Taste, I almost feel like Miller. Like in like one of the Taste of Miller is like, oh, this is BS, or no, like not the tapes, but the end of like one of the endings. You have that talk between like characters usually, and this was between Ocelot and Miller, and he kind of says like, "Screw Big Boss, like I'm gonna make sure to kill him now because I feel betrayed because I'm not actually, with the real one. The real one like left me here on this stupid mother base, and I kind of feel the same way. Like yeah, I do feel a little betrayed. So yeah, like I feel like that was a big letdown. And lastly, number 5, the last thing I'm not too big a fan of was the lack of camo and the use of like camouflage. I feel like the stealth in this game, while there is like obviously an element of stealth, is not as it's not as the biggest of the part as it was in Metal Gear Solid 3 and 4. Metal Gear Solid 3 introduced camo and how you just had to blend in with the background. Metal Gear Solid Metal Gear Solid 4. Metal Gear Solid 4 took it to the next level. With the octopus suit, octo camo, whatever. and you can blend it with anything. And those were great things. I feel like they were just really fun to use. Like really added like an element to it where you would just hide and reads and like you can just do the camo. Now it's like I feel like camo is useless. Honestly, like I haven't exactly tested this, but I'm most of the time I'm running around in the black sneaking suit, and as long as I'm crawling, like I can be within 10 meters of a person, they'll have no idea I'm even there. I mean, I think in this video you can even see I'm like crawling like within like 15 meters of this guy with the light shining on me, and they have no idea, even though the camo doesn't arguably match the background. And I just do that, and and then like no one even thinks I'm there, and I think that's ridiculous. Like I feel like that's like one of the best things to blend in the background. You feel so much more tactical. You feel so much more like Big Boss, like a trained soldier when you have to do stuff like that. And now I don't have to do that anymore. So, or you can just go anywhere at night and just not do a mission until it's nighttime, so that you don't have to worry about camo, I guess, or too much stealth. Anyways, there's a lot of things that I liked and disliked, but I would say that overall the game is great. I poured in, like I said earlier, I poured in over 100 hours on this game, and I didn't do it for nothing because it was a fun game. There are. This is not a perfect game by any means. There are negatives, there are positives, but I would say that the positives outweigh the negatives by a long shot because it's just a really fun game. And I really encourage you guys, if you're like a Metal Gear fan like I am, I really encourage you to go buy it and get it, or at least somehow play it. Borrow from a friend. I don't know, but it's really fun, and I really like it, and I hope you guys enjoy it too. And but yeah, like, that's my view of this game, of Metal Gear Solid 5. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about it. Have you beaten it? Have you not? What do you guys think? Let me know. Latest.